Welcome back to Real Push Podcast. I'm your host, Bernard Shammo, with my co-host, Dominic Szabo. We are podcasting to you today from the Detroit Shipping Company, and with us is the genius behind the food hall projects, such as Detroit Shipping Company and the Lansing Shuffle. He's also the founder of Detroit Rising Development. His reach extends into multiple market sectors, including housing and development. We call him Mr. Revitalization himself, Mr. Jonathan Hartzell.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on,
here.
man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, wonderful intro.
Yeah, you know what? There's I could have went in a million other directions because you do so much, man, and it's great to have you on the show. We are big fans of the city of Detroit.
Definitely.
We are big fans of the Detroit Shipping Company, so it's great to get a chance to sit down and talk with you. How you doing?
Doing wonderful, sweating.
Sweating.
It is.
It's hot in
It's
here.
hot. It's hot up here, definitely. But
Michigan doesn't know what to do with itself right now, right?
snowing.
Yeah.
It was just 70 last week, so
That's right.
you know what can you do?
That's right. But not just here. I'm hot and just working because you get sweaty from just working.
Just
And
working, yeah.
It was funny. I was sitting with our financial planner, my wife and I, and they're asking, when do you want to retire? And then my wife started laughing, not me. She's like, he doesn't turn off. Right? Like there's not like a retirement. There's not a moment. Anyone who owns their own business, anybody who's in real estate or anything of that nature, development,
Yeah.
which is a funny title because what are you developing? There's no finishment in it. It's just
Yeah.
developing. You're always developing.
No end route.
So I had no answer. I just said to be determined.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Jonathan, we were Dominic and I were talking, and we kind of looked back at a lot of the things that kind of led you up to today. You've been probably focusing and working on it your entire career. 2011 Facilities Management Group. Tell us about the expansion of the company, what the mindset was at the time, and how that kind of took off for you.
I'll go before that.
Please.
Yeah, like origins in college. You know, we worked. My buddy and I, who's a partner in shipping company, worked for a college painting company one summer, and was a great boss, great experience, especially for someone who's like 19 years old, 20 years old. You go paint during a day, and then the guy's like, bring your running shoes on, and you run house to house knocking on doors, which I don't know if people do anymore. And you knock on 100 doors, you get doors slammed in your face and all that, and you'd see this guy who's 35, who's just as pumped and excited to go do it, and his idea is, hey, let's do another house, let's just go another house, and he always wanted one more. And it was amazing. The next year, you know, he elevated me and my partner here into area managers. We ran our own areas, and we just realized that we're paying him 50% of all the profit to what we're doing all the work. He trained us, taught us, but now it's time for us to grow ourselves. So we
Yeah.
end up starting Good Guys Painting that next year, which the title origins from my grandmother, going really deep. My great-grandfather came here from Poland in 1919, and he ended up in Hamtramck and opened up a market. And in that, had it for 60 years. And so anyways, the long story goes to my grandmother was telling me one day, when I was starting the painting company, that you can't be a good guy in business. Your great-grandfather, you know, people owed him money till their death from the Depression and all that, and he didn't collect on them. He was too much of a good guy, and you know, he was being too polite. And so the concept was, we were going to show our grandma, you can be a good guy. So we titled the painting company Good Guys Painting. And that thing actually still operates today. I don't own it, but we actually hire them. And it's great. We turned it over to the employees, and they've run it. It's been a 20-year business.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it.
So from there, there was a point where I was operating that business, and I realized it wasn't fulfilling what I needed in my life. So I had, middle of the summer, wrote a letter to all of the contractors that hired us as subcontractors. It's so old, it was a letter, not an email, right?
Yeah.
And one of the guys came back and just said, hey, you know, I really like working with you. If you're just looking for a change, would you like to start something like Facility Management Group, which was really geared towards corporate restaurants, doing facility and uplift and like commercial build out. So we'd take a Tim Hortons in 7 days and do the full flip where you'd take the whole facade and interior. They'd keep the drive-through open, but in 7 days we'd remodel this.
You were confident enough to take that over and be good with it.
Yeah, it was great. It was wonderful. So that was my shift from painting, turned it over to the workers, and I started a facility management group with another guy. Spent a long time doing that, and again, hit that point where it wasn't getting my fulfillment of what I needed out of life. And what it was really was kind of purpose-driven legacy, right? What you get in development when you go and you find something and you bring something to a community. So we didn't set out to build Detroit Shipping Company. I just knew I wanted to invest in the city of Detroit and be part of the solve. At the time, I was working facility management group, had an office in Birmingham. My clients were corporate restaurants on the freeways through Michigan, Indiana, Ohio.
Gotcha.
And there was no soul to it.
Okay.
and we're just repeating somebody else's dream in a cookie cutter fashion. I just didn't find joy in it. And all the information about downtown needing investment. I realized that was just as much of a problem as opposed to the solve. I was talking to my aunt, who at the time, my cousins, one moved to Japan, the other to Seattle, and she had to travel the world to see her kids. And in my household, I have 4 boys at home. I was like, oh, I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
These boys are all going to take off. My sister's in Chicago, best friend in New York. Everyone's gone, and I'm not really supporting and helping. So at a bachelor party in New Orleans, at the table, there's a marketing guy, a finance guy, contractor, a designer, just all the skills you need in the world, and guys with funds. They had a few drinks, so I was getting them on a weak moment.
You know how that works. Yeah, he does.
Yeah, I'm sure. And just posed the thought, right? Like, what if we did a development or something and invested in the city of Detroit? And people said, I'll put money in, I'll put my skill in, and all that. And started splunkering the city at the time, hitting neighborhoods, climbing into windows of empty buildings, talking to every broker, what's being sold, what's the type of assets being sold, where are the values, where are the rent rates, who lives in that community, and what are they looking for in those communities. And from that, birthed Detroit Shipping Company.
Yeah. Jonathan, I want to take a second. I know Dominic's got some stuff for you. I want to peel some of that back, what you just talked about, because I'm starting to understand, which I did understand doing some research on you, what we're about to get to and what's brewing right now. Good Guys Painting, that was kind of the beginning. You have this great company. You end up selling it. I like how you talked about your grandfather, because I always ask myself, am I too good of a guy? How's my network? Do I need a good guy to give me an opportunity as well? Then you talked about facilities and some of the connections that you've had. And then you keep saying, which I absolutely love, I don't know if I'm fulfilling what I want to do. So Detroit Shipping takes off, Lansing Shuffle takes off. What's that moment where you say to yourself, I'm helping some people out, I'm revitalizing, even though I'm building spots, I'm bringing in traffic, I'm helping the city. What's that moment where I'm saying, hey, I'm putting people in a good place, how can I do more? I want to do more. What was that moment for you?
Yeah, I'm trying to understand the question. So why did I say?
Well, you keep
Detroit
talking about
now,
I don't know if I fulfilled my goals.
Yeah,
you're building businesses that are successful and that are profitable.
Yeah.
You're helping cities revitalize themselves.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's a bigger mission in place, and I guess I'm asking, what does that bigger mission look like for you?
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, if I could bottle that up, I'd let you know. I don't know, because it just comes to you, right? These moments come to you. It's funny. We go to the dry erase board and we say, well, what do we want to do? Do we want to do a residential building? Do we want to do another food hall? And that's not how we design or build. We sort of look for something that has a need, and we ask, can we solve that need?
Yeah.
Right, and because regardless if it's a cash cow or if it's cash neutral, you fulfilled something.
Yeah, definitely,
right, and then the community around it needs it, wants it, looks for it, and even in so many scenarios, every developer will tell you, you get fought by every sector.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but you still are just working through that is a need, and it's okay. Like even here, this plot of land was vacant since 1988.
Okay.
There was about 6 feet of grass. There were balloons and teddy bears on the light post out front from someone passing away.
Yeah.
Right. When the city drove me through the street, they showed me where the drug dealers were and all that. They're on this corner and all that. And it was just like, if I build this, I'm turning lights on. Right. And then when we went to some hearings, some of the neighboring businesses said, please give them this license, because we just want more lights, more foot traffic to help support all the other businesses.
Sure.
Right. So I think completing this, Detroit Rising Development wasn't existing yet. We were just doing. And then from that, we realized that impactful development meant something to us. Yeah. And so that's what shifted. So let's start a development company.
No, nice. So I got a question too. Between all the revitalization and all the projects you have done with Detroit Rising, what was one of your personal favorites?
Oh, personal favorites.
Personal favorites.
Yeah, right? Because you're in it so deep. It's hard to step away from this, your baby, right?
So this is the baby.
This is the baby. Question. I don't know what your favorite food is, but like Mr. Kebab in Berkeley, the gas station,
yes.
at 12. And
I love that story.
My first shawarma ever, right? And I've been chasing that mix of garlic to pickle the chicken. No one quite does it like Mr. Kebab, right?
It's hard.
He's done quite well. He's got a few locations.
They're awesome. I've tried so hard to get him in places. Anyways, this place, there's so much that went into this, and such fear, right, and anxiety, and it was a friends and family investment.
Of course.
And it was a unproven concept. The land was contaminated, hasn't been developed in many years. Needed to go through every rezoning of the community, had to convince community that you're real. In Detroit, you got to convince them that you're real, right? Because Detroit versus everybody doesn't mean
Very true.
New York. It means the next block over. What have you done on my
true.
block?
Very true.
It is
a little
real.
civil
Yeah,
convincing.
it's okay.
Oh, yeah, 100%, 100%. So this one is going to always be that piece for me.
Yeah.
And then as I grow and build, we're constantly asking, why is it important to that community? And how are we building and designing something that will resonate with that group? So we get calls to build food halls in a ton of towns, right? And then our statement will be, well, there's a couple things that could happen. One, we could be really successful, and you're a small community, and we're going to damage the businesses that are around us.
Correct.
Because you only have so much market saturation.
Yeah. I get that.
Or two, we're too big, and people are like, hey, I don't like this big group coming in. I'm not going to connect to that. So we've started designing this model called a small yard. We're trying to figure out what fits in smaller communities to be right sized for that. Because not anything against it, but like a Hooters concept. You can't just go and now you get a Hooters and now you get a Hooters.
Yeah, on every
They
corner.
don't fit everywhere.
Gotcha.
Right
Jonathan,
time, right place.
Sorry to cut you off. Did I hear you correctly? So you guys have dissected the science to the point where you said, "Hey, we might intrude on mom and pops here. We certainly don't want to do that."
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, that is something that is, it's amazing to hear. A lot of those guys think about those financial numbers, but
True.
to have the thought process of, hey, maybe we might overpower this community. So there's a lot of thought putting into where you guys are putting this.
Back
right.
off. Let's
Yeah.
downscale. Let's do something
right.
different.
That's right.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so a good explanation of, again, our principles is this place here.
Right.
And, we purposely left a lot of the container blank. And we're showcasing is the food stalls.
Right.
And in this place, you don't have a back of the house you don't see. You see it all.
So-
You see the chef, you see the prep cook, you see
everything.
everyone.
Yeah.
And you're immersed in the community.
Yeah.
And our job is to grow the sphere of influence for these small vendors. And what we're real proud of is that, most of them have become investors in other projects with us.
Nice.
Or done a second project with us to expand their business.
That's awesome.
Several of them now went from this is their first concept to 3-4 concepts, and they're growing their business. We have really good, tight community of meetings with them. We talk through numbers and books. It's great. And so we've expanded that into Lansing, and that's when.
Okay.
So I get called also to consult on food halls. And my first question is, what's your guiding light? Are you trying to make money, right, or are you trying to build and grow the community around you?
Gotcha.
I need to understand what who I'm talking to.
Yeah. And Jonathan, we got a chance to meet Genevieve from Bangkok 96.
Yeah, amazing.
And amazing. We're going to actually have her up here to promote her restaurant. You said a couple things that got me thinking. You said everything's in the front of the house. There is interaction with the clients, the customers, and the owners of the restaurants. I know there was a moment, there was a little bit of a turbulence recently, and there was a beloved chef. There was a tragedy.
Yeah.
And I think when you and I spoke prior to the podcast, you said it really brought this community together. It brought all the people. Can you share that with us?
Yeah, sure.
What happened?
Yeah. Chef Max recently passed.
Yeah.
And it was quite abrupt, right? And, obviously those things happen that way. And we shut down, and everyone came in, and we just kind of made food and sat down, and a lot of community members came in, and it was very interesting. I quickly got into a shuffle party dance. Everyone's shuffling and dancing, having a good time, because that's what Max would have wanted.
You're celebrating Max.
Yeah.
But like the house here, right? He was kind of like the patriarch, and Genevieve, they call her Mama. That's all
You can
people in
tell.
town.
You can tell when you talk to her. Definitely.
Yeah, and they were always in the front of the house. They weren't really in the kitchen as much. They step out and they're talking to community and all that. Max was always driving. He was doing most of our media for us. He's out really promoting. He's always, if you've looked him up, he's an amazing person. All the charities he did. It was, I have a few other venues. Food truck doesn't show up. I text Max. 20 minutes, food's there, helping the person who's running their party out.
Beautiful,
and just
man.
turns things up. So, to me, a hard place and a hard spot to fill.
Yeah.
We're not purposely openly marketing it for a while. We're just going to let it simmer. And to fill those shoes and to be part of the community, again, it's not can the next person come in and make the most money. It's how are they going to fit into our dynamic?
Man, that's May Max rest in peace.
Yeah, rest
That
in
is
peace.
just. I don't know if you picked up on that. He said, "Look, we haven't filled that spot yet. We're still.
I can see it empty.
It's still empty. We're still honoring him. We're going to make the right decision, and that's another piece that everything that you do has a lot of thought into it, a lot of creativity, a lot of compassion, and sometimes you don't see both sides from businessmen. So I love to see that, man. I love to see that. I love this is the crown jewel. I love that the traffic and the momentum. There's so many people that are so excited for Detroit Shipping Company for spring to come around.
Yeah, definitely, especially spring.
When does Lansing open up after that? This has been 6 years here, right?
Yep. And then, interestingly, 2019,
Lansing Shuffle.
December 2019, city of Lansing came to town, came here, had lunch, and realized that they had a sore spot on the Riverwalk at a farmer's market that really wasn't performing, and that they had gone out to RFP and just were getting a lot of uses that weren't in line with what they were hoping for. And they dined here and said, this is the exact experience we were hoping for. So they contacted me, again, right as COVID just hit.
Yeah.
I remember we were going up skiing, my family and I, and so I made my family go west and stop in Lansing, and we walked the Riverwalk and saw the building and just thought, I can see how this would be impactful, right? Because they're trying to convince developers to come spend money and invest in the community, trying to get new businesses to come so they can capture the postgraduate from Michigan State to stay in state.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to grow that. And that was kind of the pitch they asked me is, can you help us do that? Which 100%. Yeah. So then long design window, just again, working through navigating COVID, ended up opening up in February, end of January 2023. We've been open for a year on the food hall side. We're about 3 weeks out from opening our shuffleboard portion, which is a new pavilion on the outside on the Riverwalk. Been long interested in experiential dining and having an activity to do, right? Instead of just sitting and having a big meal, I want to experience and walk around, move. Again, I'm a family guy.
Yeah.
I actually have 24 cousins. We travel deep. So I'm always looking for somewhere I can go, sit down, have experience, walk around, and park my car once and be an experience. And so the shuffleboard, I went down the facility management team. We're down. We used to be part of a trade show called RIFMA, Restaurant Facility Maintenance Association. I'll plug that group forever. They're amazing.
Wow.
They're about 20 years deep on that association. Then they created a RIFMA Gives, which is a charity that they have. So wherever a trade show is, the group goes and remodels. You started to be just a kitchen, but it's become even more that, a homeless shelter. And you're partnering with Darden Group, Wendy's Group, all the big national. They're bringing in supplying product. All the trades of the facility association are coming in doing the trades. I was in San Diego painting door frames at a homeless shelter next to like the vice president of Wendy's Group, his daughter and him who are painting. She's at home from college, and it's just this experience. While a homeless man's behind us asking us where we're from and all that. It was just, what a great group. But anyways, I was in Orlando for that, and we had to end up staying in, Orlando's kind of goofy, so you stay in like houses and whatever. And they had a little clubhouse zone with pools. So my whole team went down, which was from 20 years old to 70 years old. Went down, and there was a shuffleboard courts and a little blending machine. And instead of going and just stopping, hitting a dip in the pool, we were there for like 6 hours, just having a great time, pushing pucks, talking. It was approachable for all ages. Everyone was having a great time.
Shuffleboard your thing?
Yeah.
So
I got into it. I was like, I love this. Let's do this.
Yeah. A lot of the things you say, I seem to pick up on that. You're always in the right room with the right people. And that means you're doing the right things. You feel like that momentum has happened because of all of you've been able to accomplish with Detroit development, Detroit Rising development, and some of the things that you've been able to set. Because you're always like, hey, it's about being in the right room with the right places. And how do you feel like that's put you in a situation to maybe even help more people out and build more projects?
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know this term because apparently I'm not nerdy enough. But my sister and I were on the phone. She's in Chicago, and she said, "You're a world walker." So what's a world walker? She said, "It's a sci-fi statement. People who can go from like planet to planet and just immerse and be part of community." So I can go and sit in Lansing with politicians, or I can go and sit with a busboy and hang out and find ourselves at a bar later. There's no barrier to entry on that conversation. But to your point, then you absorb so much and you pick up so much, and then you understand who's funding and why they're funding. You understand who needs and wants and what are they looking for that entertainment. And it's important, right, to get out there and understand the community you're working with.
Yeah.
And so I've been lucky to have a good temperament where the ego's low, and I just kind of absorb like. I think it's wrestling, right?
Yeah,
Pretty
that's
humble.
awesome. That's awesome.
You get up a few times in wrestling.
Definitely.
Yeah, you learn, right? I think that's been huge. right? And growing up with 24 cousins and seeing the spectrum of family and everyone, a lot of our family members. Great grandfather was a businessman, right? Then my grandfather owned his own company, and several of my uncles and aunts have their own practices and businesses, and being able to watch and witness that and understand good practices in that, and it's the client, that matters.
You know your audience.
Yeah.
You know your audience.
My uncle owns an insurance company, and I hadn't used his insurance company my first few years of the painting company, because when you first start a business, you might not pay your bills all the time, right? And so I didn't want to be embarrassed and not pay my uncle.
Yeah.
And so I was getting frustrated because I went to his house and there was a whole crew painting his house. Like, I own a painting company. My aunt says, he rewards the folks who they don't it's just not family. These guys, he insures them, so he gives them business back and forth, and that's how that works. That makes total sense to me, right? And take care of the people who take care of you.
True. I got a personal question now. With Detroit Rising and you being part of the committee in Detroit and having 4 boys, do you believe in this work-life balance, or?
That's why, honestly, when I started the painting company,
and
I wanted to be able to control my schedule.
Gotcha.
Right?
Gotcha.
And so instead of going to work for someone, I wanted to be able to say, when a painting company is awesome. I can go paint a house, right? I know how many hours I've got. If I want to make more money, I'll paint more hours today. If I make less money and I just want to be home, I spread it out. If I want to grow, I sell more and hire. I just love the control of that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was.
Is that part still present today?
Semi, yeah. I coached soccer up until last year.
Okay.
Last year was the first year where I could feel the pull of I can't spend 2 hours prepping for 3 hours of training sessions.
Right.
Which is, if anybody can ever coach their children in any sport or anything, it's the best steal of time.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of just dropping them off, driving in the car, driving them to the sport, you're barely talking, you're driving, they're doing something else, you sort of mince a few words, but going and immersing in something they care about and guiding through that's one of the best things you can ever do.
Oh, yeah.
I bet.
It's
Super
a
rewarding.
crazy memory
you said
for them.
4 boys. Tell us about the oldest and the youngest.
Oldest, Oliver Hartzell, one of the best people you could ever hire in your life.
How old is he?
He's 27. He's out in Utah now, works for Quicken Loans, but he's actually worked for every business I've owned except for Lansing Shuffle, because it opened after he moved. The boy had his own money and bought his first car when he turned 16, and just hasn't looked back. He's a good chip there.
Jonathan, your tired of demeanor. Your face glows when you talk about him. I love that. Well, it does.
Yeah.
It does. You got a big smile on your face, and you're so proud of him. So Oliver, Pops is. So ironically enough, he's working for a Detroit company in Utah.
That's right. Which is funny. I tell him to switch groups, because you can go to the Utah group. No, I like this group. Like, whatever, man.
He's doing his thing. He's doing his thing.
What's
Tell us
number 2
the
about?
others.
Yeah. Then there's August. He's 15. He's a freshman in high school this year. This one, he asks every question you could ever wish someone wouldn't ask, because there's always another, and then another, and another. That's the one who's really immersed himself in wrestling, soccer. He's at school constantly. You text him, hey, you coming home? Oh, there's a group of guys doing something. He'll get home. He'll bop off to another house. That one, it's funny. He struggles a bit in his academics, and I have no worry at all in his life. He'll solve it.
Yeah.
That's a good personality of a kid who he'll get in there, he'll figure it out. You're not too worried. We all know that guy, right? The guy who walks in with his chin out and just, we're gonna do it. Yeah, so he'll be good. The next is next is Teddy. Teddy's the 8th grader. Teddy was an engineer when he was in 3rd grade. In 3rd grade, he's like, I don't know if it's gonna be electrical or structural. He's just the kind of brain this kid has.
Oh, wow.
Picks up anything he wants. COVID, he took self-classes online, learned how to do origami, balloon animals. Then he started taking breakdance lessons.
Self-taught
Just on
type.
video. He's doing breakdance lessons in the living room. I moved him on soccer teams, and he was on the bench, and he's doing a headstand on the bench. And I was like, what is he doing? I said, he's just showing off. He's just trying to show him what my skills are, relating with people, whatever. So that one, it's funny, is we always say he's an alien. He doesn't really belong in our family. He's already got everything kind of figured out. And that's the one I worry about most, actually.
Yeah.
Right? Because if everything comes easy, when failure hits, right, what are you going to do?
Crash.
Yeah.
So funny story about him. Again, really even keel guy, has things figured out. But to him, it should go in a way. And if it doesn't go in a way, that's when the explosion happens of stress. And so the boys did chess club forever, and they're in a chess tournament. And he wins his first matches. So now he's walking back and forth in front of the trophy table. He's seeing it. He knows what's coming for himself. He's excited.
Hyping himself up.
Oh, yeah. Next match, he loses.
Oh, no way.
Right? And makes the kid, go back 6, 7 moves to prove every move. And okay.
Yeah.
A little mad. You can see him just gritting his teeth, a little angry. But he's like, goes to that table, walks by a few times, and says, okay, I still got this other trophy. It's not a bad side. That's not bad. And loses that next match and just cleans that table up.
Oh,
just
no
a smack
way.
everything off explosion. Flips the table, goes over the couch, gets kicked in the place.
It's got the temper to him.
Oh, yeah. So family's a little irritated with this. So we get home, let a couple days go by, and get all the boys in the room, and I set a table up of the game Risk.
Yes. I know Risk.
Well, that's
Yep.
beautiful.
Yep.
So my roll comes, get a bunch of guys, I put them all on a land next to Teddy, and I just hammer him. I just hammer this dude of good luck dealing with this.
Yeah.
And he's getting all mad and upset, and my return ends, and we roll again, and I load it up, and I start hammering. Oh, he's mad. Gets up, and he leaves the room. He's crying and
At what
freaking
age
out.
is this at now?
It's probably 4th or 5th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's time.
It's time.
It's time.
You better deal with it.
Yeah.
And so the boys are like, are we done? I said, no, this will stay here till he's ready to play again. So a couple days go by, come back out, and the game went back on.
Hammering him down.
Let me ask you, of the 4 beautiful stories, by the way, who would you say most compares has similar patterns to Grandpa? And I use that with the good guy. You know, who would be the one that would say, "I'll let you off the hook," and who's not going to be the toughest on somebody if they weren't doing what they were supposed to do or owed money or whatever.
Yeah. They're all so, everyone's so unique. If you have multiple kids, right? They're just all so unique. You can put them in the same room and give them all the same food, and there's such little pieces of themselves. It's a good question. So, a little clarification. It was great grandpa was the business owner.
Great grandpa.
Gotcha.
Grandfather passed before I actually met him.
Gotcha.
But owned business. Great grandfather, from my direct knowledge, we hung out. He was 90 to 97. This old Polish 6'6" man who'd sit down. We put a whoopee cushion under his chair. It didn't go off because he's just so light and frail and old. And he'd pinch your cheek.
Didn't go off because he was so light.
That's funny.
So, anyways, on the question of who has the most empathy is the 4th I haven't mentioned to you, Lou, who will roll up to school in a Hawaiian shirt and tie-dyed pants and just
Flip-flops.
just
Yeah.
the most chill dude ever. During COVID, in the morning, we want to have some purpose to life. So wake up, you got to do an exercise, you got to do a chore, you got to do an act of kindness, and you got to do an exercise thing. So, anyways, I would always give them the same exercise. We made things up. And one was this run to the cul-de-sac and back. And 2 days earlier, Lou had made himself bubble tape shoes from all the deliveries coming, and he wore them for 2 days, popping all over the house. And he ran this race in bubble tape shoes. It was so
He's the
good.
one that doesn't care.
So that one will come in. He'll understand. He'll hear what someone's problems are, and he'll be, it's okay. He'll give you empathy.
Which one is most interested in what Dad does? Most interested in what you do? Ask the most questions about business.
Yeah.
Do you
It's Gus for sure.
Gus for sure?
Yeah. The oldest Oliver, because he had to go through it, and he had to go through it when I was young and going through it himself. I did a few Ironman races
Gotcha.
in my late 30s, and at some point when he was getting to the point of standing up to Dad and saying, I'm going to take my own path. Your dad, I don't need it. He just said, not everyone's an Iron Man, dude. Like, come on, man.
Puts it back at you.
Yeah, it
Puts
was
it
a good
back
call.
at you.
Boy. So Gus is the one who's asking a ton of questions, really curious and understanding all the businesses. Like I said, Teddy, he'll go and he'll draw. Like we were trying to get a movie theater in this town. Really hard. Try to work on Alamo Draft House.
Oh man, that'd be a
Still
big
working
one.
on
Maybe
that?
a drive-in.
No, right now we can't get done. What?
Maybe a drive-in.
Maybe drive-in would be sweet.
Drive-in would be
too.
sweet.
It right now our best chance is Paul Gland's getting it figured out. But we'll see. Anyways, we solved funding, land. We solved every problem. And just the reality is Alamo just wasn't. We were the 4th option out of 4, and they were only going to do 2 that year.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
eventually they came up with reasons why they couldn't come. But to my children, I say, hey guys, if you were drawing this, what would it look like? I'm curious what they would do. And Teddy, he's got elevator and shafts, and he's got and this is when he's like, probably 5th grade, 6th grade. That's where this kid's thoughts go. I was like, oh man, that's pretty impressive.
He's the engineer type. Engineer type, definitely.
Yeah.
Another question for you here. So back to Detroit stuff, with all the revitalization and repurposing of land here, what was the feedback from the community that you got?
It was all over the place.
Was it?
It was all over the place.
Yeah.
We announced early that we were doing container food hall on the concept that I was just seeing a lot of buzz of those pieces.
Right.
And I always want to get ahead of it, even though we're like a year and a half ahead, just to discourage others as they try to do what we're doing, because that's what you do as a business. Like, oh man,
You gotta be the first.
I gotta be the first.
Yeah.
And it was funny, some feedback, because a couple people went online and gave us bad reviews, terrible service, and all that.
You gotta
wasn't
be kidding me.
Wasn't even a shovel on the ground.
You gotta be
That was
kidding
so good.
me.
No way.
Already?
Yeah,
That's unbelievable.
That was awesome. And then, but what I was getting is, mostly great positive feedback.
From the
people
community,
wouldn't tie into us; they would tie into like trash in something of Detroit and solve that in Detroit that doesn't contextually match us. But what I found a lot with people calling us gentrifiers, and so I would deep dive. I would personally message them, say, "Hey, listen, you want to talk about that? I'll meet you for coffee.
Yeah,
I want to understand why you think this.
How cool is that?
And so
that's real. It's very real.
It's real.
out of it, 3 people said yes, and all 3 of them not from our state.
Oh, no way.
College students, not in Detroit. It's just like picking up what they read and what they hear and just making assumptions and then putting that into the social world so for it to be believed by others.
Social media and colleges, man.
Yeah.
But that goes to show you a lot about who that person is.
Yeah, sure.
You did the right thing by reaching out. It goes to show you a lot of who that person is. Beautiful breakdown on your boys. Thank you for that. We're going to value your time. We got a few more questions and we'll let you go. Your portfolio is unbelievably impressive. We continue to talk about Detroit shipping. We talked about Lansing Shuffle. We know you're into multiple sectors. A lot of times when you're talking to athletes and successful entrepreneurs, they tell you, look, when I was able to fulfill my dream or my goal, it was good. But it was the journey leading up to it that was the most satisfying. It was all of the time and effort. And when I got there, it was like, okay. You feel like that was the same for you?
It's so real.
So real, right?
It's so real. I talk about doing the triathlons. I'd be swimming in a pool and then just scream because things were going through your head so much. I need to solve this. And I just get out of the pool and just go to work. Right, and then knowing all the time you put into each project, they're not simple. You're navigating so many pieces, right? It's amazing when it finally you cry a bit, right?
Yeah, of course,
you're crying, and you're proud, and then it's funny. This place here, because we're talking about this because I'm here, it's front of mind. I looked at renderings for 2 years. When they showed up, I was so distraught because the containers are dented. It's just so funny. I
You were probably devastated.
I looked at pristine lines, like, what is going on? But that's what a once used container is. Like, oh, yeah, of course, it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And so right now, building like shuffleboard out in Lansing and all these other pieces is going.
Is that also containers?
0 containers out there right now.
Okay.
There was a standing farmers market, and it's like a butler building.
I seen the rendering of that too. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's just like when you get in and you render, then you actually sit in the space and experience it, right? When what you've thought of and talked about for hours and hours actually exists in front of you, is always pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
It's that journey.
Yeah. I got 2 questions, and we'll probably wrap things up. One, this was one of the biggest questions that people are asking in this city. You were probably one of the first to start popping off with containers being built as a building or something like that. Why containers for here?
So, again, I didn't set out to build a food hall. I didn't set out to do anything but invest in the city of Detroit. I was trying to understand it. So the original drawing was on a napkin. It was 5 rectangles at a date night with my wife, at Original House of Pancakes.
Okay.
And I said, what if I do some containers out in a field in the city of Detroit, and it's food, beverage, and entertainment? And she's like, oh, I'll grab the hand and rubbed it. Whatever, buddy. What had happened is because I was doing the facility work with corporate restaurants, my social media feed was feeding me corporate restaurant stuff.
Gotcha.
I was doing a lot of design work. At the time, I was tearing roofs off houses, adding 1,000 square feet and all that. Doing a lot of my friends' houses that way, just doing a lot of that. And I was doing the design of that too.
Right.
So again, my social algorithm was reading all this, and I started getting single container like cafes and bars coming up, and I just found it really charming. I really liked it. So the original iteration of this was just like an open air field, walk up like style cafe of food. And then doing the RIFMA shows, we'd go and we'd do these trade shows, and we'd always do them at like a Gaylord.
Okay.
And then the opening party would always be at some venue. It would be amazing how they curated the experience of dining, right? You walk in, maybe you hit a bar right away, and how they laid out process of your time was always amazing to me. And so that as I was maturing this concept, I just kept going through that space. It's like, what's my experience while dining? There, where David Vintage's was a T-shirt shop.
Right.
And you'd roll in there and they could print your shirt on site. Well, that's 10 minutes while you're having a beer, having a good time, talking to the guy. Very charming dude in there talking to you.
So
you got
cool,
a T-shirt,
man.
roll
So
up,
cool.
see a podcast, do some food, multiple choices.
Coffee shop for people that don't drink.
Ice cream. They make the ice cream fresh right there.
Yeah. That's
But
awesome.
you're always experiencing, again, you're talking to chefs. I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I lost track of the question.
It was why
the
containers.
So
Yeah, why
containers was really just that. I just found them super charming, and just wanted to build with
Very
it.
unique.
And then at some point, food halls are popping off across the country.
True.
The time we built this, there was like 50, and then by the time we designed it 50, down 200. Now we're like 450.
Sure.
Right, and we're getting calls constantly. When sorry, I'm telling a big tangent. But when I was considering this, I went to Pittsburgh to look at an Ace Hotel because Clark Park has a old YMCA, and it's like a weird space, and they built out of a YMCA in Pittsburgh, the Ace Hotel. So I gotta go check this out and understand how they use those small rooms and the spaces. And while I was there's a few food halls. One was the Fort Street Galley that was here. It was their original place, which was the Galley Group. And so I contacted a broker and said, hey, I'd love to meet those guys and just ask them about some experiences. And they refused to meet me. Which obviously years later I found out because they're coming here, which I wish they would have met me because I would have told them, don't go to that spot. It's okay to have more competition, bring more, but don't go to that spot. But whatever, they didn't meet me. And from that moment, I was just like kind of put off. I said, if anybody calls me and asks, I'll give them a half hour. So like I've had so many conversations with people opening food halls across the country, even in Canada. People are calling me. Talked to a guy in Australia for a while, do an hour phone call, just trying to talk about use of containers. People.
Yeah, but that's got to feel great.
It's great. It's great. I can give the half hour.
Yeah,
right?
That's got to feel great.
We combined the buzz of containers, Detroit, food hall.
Yeah.
Put those three things together.
Yeah.
It's
a big buzz.
Yeah. And then your aunt in Seattle sees you in Food and Wine magazine as the top 10 food halls in the country when you're not even built.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Shake it.
Sure we are.
Last thing, if you want to tell our listeners what's coming up for the future for Detroit Rising, what's developing, what do we have to look forward to?
Yeah, I love it. 2023 and into 24 were stabilized years, right? We opened a bunch of businesses at the beginning of 23. Bought New Dodge Lounge, a Hamtramck bar, and trying to help support the music scene and live bands in this area.
Yeah.
A lot of venues are closing down for that. We're trying to keep that going, so we bought that.
Nice.
We're supporting that. Bought opened the food hall. Growing that out in Lansing. We bought a YMCA in Livonia called
I know which one that is.
Livonia Athletic District.
Yeah.
Converted it indoor soccer training, sports training, got Health Quest. But we have 9 acres of land. So we've converted the backyard to outdoor pickleball, outdoor soccer. We got a beer garden.
A little par 3 course, maybe?
Absolutely.
Let's do it. Let's do
That's
it.
a great idea.
Little indoor par 3 during the winter.
I love that.
We need to call them and get a sit down with them.
Yeah.
I have the idea to have the whole sketch up in my head.
I love it.
I have the whole sketch up in my head.
So those are just all stabilized, and then we've owned the land next to the shipping company since 2016, and we fully developed and permitted a building to be built. And when COVID hit, it was office retail. It was really going to build off, the micro entrepreneur that's this space into that. But the world's not funding that. So we had to go back and we looked at boutique hotel. So I fully designed and funded a project, but just can't get the final piece of that because the numbers don't quite work. So now we're looking at a whole campus study of the land behind us. And all the neighbors are all collaborating on this. And it looks like that's going to be the big push for us, is doing a big campus on Peterborough, MLK, second to Cass.
Well, they saw what you're They saw what you're capable of.
Yeah.
They saw what you're able to do.
Yeah.
So that's got to bring them excitement.
Yeah,
for sure.
And amazing support. Olympia's actually come and said, "Let us know what you want to do. Maybe we'll back you to be part of that."
Nice.
The Levin family, who big history, they own property here. They're really holding off the land for us. They've had other offers. They're holding it for us. So as I'm developing that plan, it's going to be amazing.
Is that District 444? Is that what it was?
It was Complex 444.
Complex 444.
That was the original.
Gotcha.
That's when COVID.
And then now we're changing.
COVID. Then it became Lifehouse Hotel.
Okay.
And it just isn't big enough. It just doesn't do it right. Like it just needs to go more. And so really building on our art, our entertainment, our food and bev, and all experiences, making live, work, play kind of concept in the space.
Yeah.
That's what we're working towards.
That's
awesome. That's the big thing that'll pop up next.
That's awesome.
Love it. We are, before we bring up Mama Genevieve for Bake Act 96, we are so proud of your success, man. There's so many people. I would even tell you, for the people that a lot of people have moved down to Detroit, but everybody in the suburbs loves the projects that you do. And I think more importantly, the people down here love what you do. It brings warmth to the city. It brings people. It brings energy. And congratulations on your success. We're going to put your hashtags up on our website for the Detroit Shipping Company, for the Lansing Shuffle. He is the founder of Detroit Rising Development. He is the co-founder of the food hall projects we just talked about. He's got multiple successful businesses, and we are extremely excited to see what the future holds. That is Jonathan Hartzell. That is Dominic Shaba. I am Bernard Chambeau. Whatever life throws at you, keep pushing along. Real Push Podcast. If you like what we're putting out there, please feel free to share it. We're going to put the hashtags up also for a lot of the projects we just discussed.